Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts, sports journalist David Todd, and from SteelersDepot.com, Dave Bryan. Just a couple of Daves, chillin', talking Steelers. Now, here's Dave and Dave.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Dave. He's Dave Bryan of SteelersDepot.com, the place to get your latest and greatest Steelers information. And I'm David Todd. It's Season 9, Episode 38. And Dave, Steelers started 0-1-1, and they're going to go into Week 8 in first place. I think you would have been able to win some money if you'd taken that bet down to the casino a few weeks back.
Boy, what a difference a few days make. Yeah, you enter the weekend in third place in the AFC North, and of course the Steelers were on a bye, did not play, needed both the Ravens and the Bengals to lose, and that happened. And they still they don't have that extra game in hand, if you will, because they're the first team to have the bye. But here they are with the better winning percentage of those three top teams there. And the Browns lost as well, and they don't look like they're hitting on all cylinders right now as they prepare to come to Pittsburgh in Week 8 on Sunday. So couldn't have drawn it up any better. And I think kind of the icing on the cake was you see Justin Tucker is human, and then later on in the evening you see Vontaze Burfict is more than human.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the most surprising thing of the week wasn't Aaron Donald putting up maybe the greatest defensive greatest statistical line by a defensive lineman in history. And if you haven't seen that line, Donald's numbers were absolutely off the chart. I got him here right in front of me. See if I can just locate the last time I saw him. But he finished with 4 sacks, I think maybe 6 tackles for loss. So 9 tackles, 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and 5 QB hits. I mean, just crazy good stuff. And Aaron Donald's proven to be, we talk about the elite defensive players in the game, and Khalil Mack got a lot of buzz early on. J.J. Watt's back to kind of being J.J. Watt, but I'm not sure there's a better defensive player in the league than Pitt's very own Aaron Donald, who going into his senior year was seen as maybe a 4th-round pick, kind of shot up the draft boards during his season and then down at the All-Star games. And went, I think, 12th to Minnesota and has been 12th to the Rams, of course, and has been an elite player ever since. But no question, Dave, in my mind, the most shocking thing that happened over the weekend is the god of kickers, Justin Tucker, missed an extra point. And it wasn't just any extra point. It was a late game extra point that cost the Ravens a tie and the potential to win a game against the Saints. That 112 in his career in a row, only kicker who's never missed with a certain number of attempts since they moved the extra point back. That to me was crazy, shocking stuff.
Well, 222, right?
Well, I think 112 since they moved back to the 33.
Oh, okay, and 222 in total, right? So. Yeah. And I think dating back to his college time, I mean, you want to talk about something, that was as improbable.
It's so improbable his percentage is still 100%.
There you go. And yeah, didn't see that one coming at the end. In fact, I was thinking, I thought something was wrong with the game center I was watching. It wouldn't update. I didn't see that extra point tick on there. And then I was like, oh, wow. And then you notice that he did miss, and then started going crazy on Twitter. And then you see his reaction. I was actually watching what was I watching? Watching the end of the bucket. I think I was watching, not the end of the... Trying to remember what game was on. Second half.
Dallas.
Oh yeah, the Dallas-Washington game. Yeah, I was watching the end of that one, and what a crazy ending that one had there. And then I got to finally see the Justin Tucker reaction. He looked just as shocked as probably we were seeing that thing not sail through the uprights there. So, well, here we are, and 7 weeks of the NFL season now in the books, and it's like none of it happened really, as far as the AFC North goes.
Yeah, this is kind of, as we mentioned last week, look, give the Bengals and Ravens some credit. I think they've been a little better than we both said, but let's also acknowledge that they're 4-3, and we both kind of put them around 7 or 8 wins. So it's not like they're sitting here at 6-1. The Ravens looked great yesterday for 2.5 quarters. And then, we saw the Saints, who were maybe, one of the best offensive teams we've seen. And we've seen so many good offensive teams of late that it's hard to tell. But Drew Brees is playing football as well as he's ever played. And the Saints are a really good team. So, no shame for the Ravens to lose that game. The Bengals got absolutely the crap kicked out of them by Pat Mahomes, who continues to just, lead the MVP race, really. I mean, he and Todd Gurley and, you could maybe even put Phillip Rivers and a couple other players in there for the seasons they're having. Just extraordinary. So, we don't know. And as you pointed out a couple weeks ago, let's see where these teams are 3 weeks from now. The Steelers have had their bye. The Bengals get Tampa at home. The Ravens go to Carolina. No easy piece of cake there. They certainly could be 4-4. And then the Bengals go on the bye. The Bengals go on the bye. The Ravens eventually have their bye. But, of course, 2 weeks from now, Steelers-Ravens in Baltimore will be a huge game. And let's not overlook Steelers playing the Browns this week at home. So we're going to have a lot more information 2 or 3 weeks from now, as we do in every NFL season. But for the Steelers, if they're able to win the next 2, they really could put themselves in the driver's seat in great position to kind of when they get to the hard part of the schedule, too. I mean, things are going to get tougher for the Steelers as they roll along here.
How would you rank the AFC North teams right now?
As much as it pains me, I'll put Baltimore and the Steelers. Maybe even put Baltimore a tad ahead of the Steelers. I need to see the Steelers do it with a little more consistency. The Ravens' performance in their loss actually impressed me yesterday. Their defense is very good. All right, so I think we can give them that. And Flacco's having his best year since the Super Bowl. So, flip a coin, put them on par. And the Ravens obviously beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, so maybe you still have to give them a little bit of an edge. I think the Steelers are better than the Bengals. The Bengals are really banged up. That's part of the issue. And then Cleveland, not a bad team, another overtime loss, but I think they're a step behind the group. But I think the group is probably more bunched than most Steeler fans think today.
Yeah, I would definitely go Ravens, and really because of the play of their defense. I thought their defense might be okay this year, but it really is they might have the best defense right now in the NFL.
They're excellent, no question.
They really might, and we talked about. Well, I mean, let's look at the scoreboard from yesterday. How many teams scored more than the Titans only scored 19. Obviously, the Cardinals scored only 10 points. The Jets scored just 17. The Dolphins scored 21. The Jaguars, oh, Lord, 7. The Bills, 5. I don't know how much credit you give the defenses in those situations. The 49ers, 10 points. There were still, the Bengals, 10. The Cowboys, 17. There were still, half the teams in the NFL that didn't reach 20 or 21 points yesterday? How many in total? 1. Even the Chargers, let's go under 20 points. The Cardinals didn't. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams, right? 9 teams scored under 20 points yesterday.
Yeah, well, and as we said, the Chargers won with 20. But if you hold a team and the teams are lower, you should win in today's NFL for sure. And, we saw some close games. We saw some interesting decisions. You mentioned the Jaguars. Good gracious. Are they going to – should they call him Landry Jones this morning? Are they, trying to figure out how to acquire Eli Manning? I don't know what the Jaguars do, but they certainly have an issue. The Bills got an issue at quarterback. Some of these teams, the comment was that some of these teams, did not go in with a very, very strong plan at number 2. And whatever you think of Landry Jones or Josh Dobbs or Mason Rudolph for that matter, you had to, nobody wants to go to their second quarterback. That's why a guy is the second or third quarterback. But the Steelers at least had some options and have some options at the number 2 quarterback position. When you're going to some of the guys Whether, and C.J. Beathard's been better than I thought he was going to be. But when you look at some of these rosters, the Giants don't have a guy on their roster to go to if something were to happen to Eli Manning. Blake Bortles gets pulled, and you see where they go. The Bills have to sign Derek Anderson, 6 weeks into the season. We've complained about the Steelers drafting quarterbacks, but one of the things is, man, that, the thing worse than drafting quarterbacks that you might not need is not having a viable guy if your guy goes down. And the fact that 3 or 4 teams in the NFL are in that situation is unbelievable.
Well, we talk all the time about how this league is a quarterback-driven league and how many teams have one. I mean, you go into every season, it seems like, and it's only, you rattle off 10 teams that you think have a chance to win the Super Bowl, right? I mean, not even a third of the teams maybe have a chance to win a Super Bowl. I mean, how many people are going to pick a team like the Dolphins or the Titans or geez, I mean, who go down the list here, of the quarterbacks, and then there's the teams that supposedly do have the quarterbacks, and like, the Falcons and obviously the Steelers and Patriots, and you just go down the list. You got to have one. And, people have asked us, I think we got an email or two, well, why is, we talked up Landry Jones, how, probably the better top third of backup quarterbacks in the league. Why doesn't he have a job right now? That's a great question. I mean, you don't know what a guy's thinking either. You don't know what a guy has been offered. You don't know what exactly, kind of scheme he might best fit or being run. I am a bit surprised that Landry Jones doesn't have a job right now, but it doesn't mean that he might not have one here in the next week or two. And especially, look, I mean, there's going, like it or not, there's probably still going to be a quarterback or two get hurt here before the end of the season. So we'll see, but we're definitely seeing that guys like, and look, Blake Bortles, when he came out, I had some optimism about Blake Bortles, and I think we've seen.
I had some optimism coming into this season after, him, I thought, certainly playing better last year. No doubt he played better.
Yeah, we've seen Blake Bortles, but I think we've seen peak Blake Bortles at this point now, right? I mean,
we might have seen it. We might have seen the last of Blake Bortles.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, the 3 fumbles yesterday, just absolutely horrible. And if he doesn't have a run game to lean on, and that's definitely something he had in the 2 wins over the Steelers last year was a running game. And we'll see how quickly they're able to get Carlos Hyde up to speed now that they've traded for him and all. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, who's going to come? I mean, the Texans are now at 4-3. The Texans are now in charge of that South Division. The Titans let one get away. What did you think about the end of? I mean, the Titans should have won that game. They have nobody to blame but themselves for not winning that game.
Yeah, I have to say I didn't see much until I only really saw the last 5 minutes, and I did see kind of, well, first of all, we talked about this in the offseason. I knew you were excited to see Bruce Arians. He and Jason Witten have been huge disappointments as analysts, I think, in terms of their insight and kind of feel for the broadcasting aspect of the game. Obviously,
he has the insight. He doesn't have the timing or the
right.
Anything else to go along with it.
Yeah, he and Witten have great insight, but they just don't. They're just not good at delivering it, unfortunately. Whereas Tony Romo, if you'd seen the kind of end of that Cowboys-Washington game, he, a couple more great insights. I think he's done a great, kind of universally. I think people think he's done a great job. But the point being on the 2-point conversion, I like the call. Look, we can get into kind of statistically whether you should do it or not, and things would say you generally should. I was just shocked in the post game. Cowher was talking about having a feel for the game and how they dominated. And, well, you know what? Right? They just went the length of the field and scored a touchdown drive. They're dominating right there and then. Isn't that when you want to take advantage of this stuff? And on the first play on the conversion, if Mariota looks right to Dion Lewis, he has him wide open in the flat for an easy score. He continues to look left and scrambles right eventually, gets the holding call. And then on the next down, he makes an ill-advised throw that was, if the first guy didn't tip it, which he did, then the second guy was going to break it up. So it wasn't a good decision, but that was from the 1-yard line. I know you and many others thought they should have run the ball. They had a chance to win the game. I have no problem with them going for it. I was just shocked to hear the post game, and I ripped Sims and Cower and Boomer because these guys, I think, their use by date is done. Same old song and dance from all three of those guys. And Cower was touting the analytics line, but saying, you have to have a feel for the game. And then they criticized Vrabel, cut to Bill Belichick and saying, well, Bill Belichick would go for it on situations like that, but he's won 5 Super Bowls. Well, maybe that's part of the reason he's won 5 Super Bowls. I was losing my mind. I had to turn it off, and I had to, again, I swear off pre and post game shows for 10 more years.
Yeah, I thought they should have ran it there. Look, this is a Titans team that's kind of built, behind the run. You got a mobile quarterback in Marcus Mariota. You got 2 decent backs in Henry and Dion Lewis. You have a decent offensive line. You're at the one. If you cannot run, if you can't design or come up with something for 1 yard when you need it the most, then you're doing it wrong. You need to look at your roster. You need to look at your scouts. You need to look at every aspect of it, your coaches and all of it, if you can't get 1 yard. I have no problem going for 2 in that situation there. Look, I mean, you hard week over, traveling over there and all. You have an opportunity to win the game in one play, and why would you not take that opportunity? To me, it's just your chances might be just a little bit less than a 42-yard kicker in or something like that. But I mean, geez, I just they have themselves to blame for not winning that game.
Yeah, the other close, the Browns, the Tampa kicker gets a chance to Casanaro, whatever his name is, he's missed some big ones in his day. Go back to that game against New England a couple years ago, on Thursday or Monday night in week 2, when he missed one they could have won. He ends up in Tampa. He misses an easier field goal at the end of the game, and then hits the bomb to win it. Right, so. That's a tough. The Browns, what is that? Their 3rd overtime game?
Fourth overtime game this year.
4th overtime game out of 7 this year. Just stunning. They've had chances. A good comeback yesterday to get in a position to win the game, but couldn't get it done.
And now there's talk about Hugh Jackson saying he wants to meddle with the offense. I'm sure that'll go over with Todd Haley like a lead balloon this week. Their defense, which has been played well at times, most of the season, gives up 26 points in this game. And, you have to wonder how close are the Browns? Are the Browns a loss or 2 more away from kind of self-destructing, coming to Browns? Now, they have been in a lot of games, but offensively still, I don't know. Was it a right decision to trade away Carlos Hyde?
Well, look, they're not winning anything this year. They know who their feature back is going to be in the future, and Duke Johnson's way underutilized. So, to me, you have your guy. Chubb's going to be your guy. He's not that expensive. Hyde signed a real contract, so you give yourself more flexibility, and you get a 5th round pick. I think it was the right move. They didn't cost themselves a playoff berth with the move.
Okay. What do you think about Jackson talking about meddling in the offense now? How do you think that's...
it's insane. When the defense has been good, but they had 9 penalties yesterday, and there were some mistakes. I mean, how many starts has Baker Mayfield made? 3? I mean, come on, the kid's going to find his way this year. He's learning his way. You don't have great receivers. You have a good receiver, and you have potentially other good, tight end and Njoku and. This is not on the offense. This is just you're a team that's 1-31. You're 2-4-1, and you've been in. You've lost a couple overtime games. Man, come on. It's things are going just fine in Cleveland. Really. I mean, I don't know what the expectations were, but they come out of this season, 6-9-1. That's a big step forward.
All right. How concerned are you about this post-bye game for the Steelers versus the Browns versus the opener this year, Browns versus Steelers?
Well, more concerned because, I thought the Steelers would have a relatively easy time in week 1 of the season with the Browns, and they clearly didn't. I think the Steelers should win this game. The line seems a little high to me. Probably I'd have it 6.5 instead of 7.5. But, this is a game the Steelers are playing better. I just, you hope Baker Mayfield doesn't look like Pat Mahomes on Sunday.
Right. I mean, look, there's no reason for them to lose this game. Coming off the bye, the offense, the Steelers' offense really, clicking in my opinion right now. A lot more so than say maybe that first meeting between the two teams. The only thing is, and look, they neutralized, like it or not. And Myles Garrett did have a decent game, but as I pointed out, after that Week 1 game, that wasn't at Alejandro Villanueva's expense in that game. Now, yeah, did Garrett have the key kind of or from behind, where Villanueva missed the block there and then stripped? If James Conner holds on to that football, Steelers probably still win that game, right?
Yes, the Steelers win that game in regulation, and probably maybe it's 21-7. It's just unfortunate. If there's a blemish on James Conner's season, that is it.
Absolutely. So this is a game that I think they match up well in. We'll obviously get into breaking it down a little bit more as the week goes on. We'll have our beat writer back on Wednesday here. In the meantime, before we shift gears here, do you want to talk a little bit about our new sponsor, David?
I do. And folks, we are venturing into the world of the financial world. And Robinhood is a firm that I'm not sure many people are familiar with, but it's a brokerage firm that its distinctive feature, Dave, is zero cost commissions, so able to execute trades at no cost. And I know I was not necessarily surprised, but both of us actually have accounts at Robinhood even before we got involved with them being a sponsor.
And I actually, well before I moved, I had come across Robinhood well before I even moved out to Vegas, and I was attracted, to the no commission trades, and obviously the app that goes along with it. And that was my initial draw to it, and I have actually used it, dating back to well before we moved out to Las Vegas, and I love it. I mean, it's just it's right there, easy to use on my phone to make the buys and the sells and everything that I need to do. So yeah, I was quite. I was surprised that they came to us with this offer, and B, I was glad that it was a product that I already use.
Yeah, you can buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptocurrency.
I haven't tried that part of the cryptocurrency side.
Well, I'll tell you, that world's changed a bit from being the most volatile part of the world to being one of the least volatile parts of the world. At least if you're in the major one in Bitcoin these days. But these are services that work for everyone, not just really rich investors, because they work for Dave and I. So that should tell you enough. Non-intimidating way for newcomers to invest with confidence, simple and intuitive, clear design, easy to digest. Check it out. Like I said, other car brokerages, back in the day, it used to be $200 for a trade. So $400 round trip. Now others charge $10. Robinhood doesn't charge a commission or fee. To trade stocks and keep all your profits. Just 4 taps on your smartphone to get charts, market data, and a place to trade. And you can set up things like 100 most popular sectors, entertainment, social media, curated categories, all these different things. You get analyst ratings, buy, hold, and sell for stocks. Check it out. Learn how to invest and build your portfolio. You learn by doing. You discover new stocks and track your favorite companies. And you can get notifications for price movements so you never miss the right time. So, also, this is important. Robinhood, this is very important. Listen up. Robinhood is giving listeners a free stock like Apple or Ford or Sprint to help build your portfolio. If you sign up at Steelers.Robinhood.com, that's Steelers.Robinhood.com. then you will get a little gift for opening the account. So check it out, and make sure you sign up at Steelers.Robinhood.com. Okay. And thanks to them for being involved, as they're going to be with us, for the balance of the season. So thanks for Robinhood. All right. So let's just get the Le'Veon Bell stuff out of the way. Think he's showing up this week?
No. Well, I'm out of the Le'Veon Bell prediction business at this point. Now, I don't know what's running around through his head, but if push comes to shove, forced to make a prediction about today. No, I don't think he is. I think he's going to wait until right after probably now the trade deadline and didn't show up. At this point, I think this guy. I don't know if this guy even knows what he's thinking right now at this point. I can't see. I just can't see where he thinks he's made some right decisions at this point. And perhaps maybe he's not showing up because he's fearful the Steelers might trade him, and maybe he doesn't want that to happen. So here's the thing. If he does show up today, he's not playing against Cleveland. I don't see, but there was a time several weeks ago where I thought, okay, if he shows up and he shows up early enough in the week, maybe he'll dress for the that following game. If you go back to last year when he showed up, after the preseason, they slapped that roster exemption on him, and then that following Saturday they moved him to the 53-man roster, and then he obviously played in the opener against Cleveland. That's not happening this time around. He's missed enough time now, and I think Ben Roethlisberger said as much last week. Even if he shows up, he's probably at least 2, 3, 4 weeks away from playing. It doesn't sound like they want to upset the apple cart in that locker room right now anyway. So even if he does show up, I would not expect him to play in the next 2 games, to be quite honest with you. So I don't know when it's going to happen at this point. I think he will before the week 11 deadline. I just don't know when. And if I'm the Steelers right now, I don't want any parts of the room messed with right now.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take him 3 or 4 weeks to get ready once he comes. If the Steelers want to have him be involved, I certainly understand why Ben says what he says, but I'm with you. I don't think he signs up and is activated in week 1. So we'll see how things go. I'd be surprised if hypothetically he showed up today that the Steelers didn't have him active next week to play the Ravens. But the other thing to remember here is the trade deadline's next Wednesday, 4:00. So that takes you to October 30. The Steelers play a Thursday game after the Ravens game. So once you get past this week, if he's not in the following Monday for the Ravens game, he's not playing in that next game either. So kind of if he doesn't play this week, you can pretty much assume he's not playing. If he doesn't show up this week, you can assume he's not playing the next 3 games. And maybe after that Carolina game on a Thursday with a long week, which in some ways acts like a mini bye, maybe that's when we'll see him. But again, like you, I'm not in the prediction business anymore. So let's just move on. And we said we were going to talk about. Well, is there anything else? The Eagles lost a stunner yesterday. The stunner in the sense that they were up 17-0, and we were talking about who the best teams in football are. Is it clear now the 4 best teams in football are the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Saints, and the Rams?
I would definitely say the Chiefs. I would definitely say the Rams. New England. You can't have a conversation about best team in the league without having New England in there. New Orleans. They're winning some games. They're 5-1, right? Their defense is suspect at times, so I think you got to put them in there. And the Chargers, like it or not, we talked about their differential the other day. I think you have to put them in there. I think the Bears have dropped out, and look, they were one of the teams that had not played the 6 games yet when we talked about differential the other day. So who were the other? What was it? 5 teams in there. I think it was the Chiefs, the Chargers. I think Baltimore was in there. The Rams, and I'm trying to remember who else was in there. That might be it right there. Or Seattle. Seattle was the surprise team in there. Right. Let me tell you, you watch that. Kansas City is a fun team to watch, and I don't know what's going to happen to Patrick Mahomes. Once defensive coordinators have a little bit more tape on him, because let's face it, this is his first season, right? We've seen quarterbacks in the past, Dak Prescott, and I mean even more recently, Wentz and all like that. Once these coordinators get a good look at them, there's a large selection of tape on them. Things seem to catch up with them a little bit, with these quarterbacks. But I tell you, that Pat Mahomes, it looks like he understands what he sees across from him already, and he knows where to go with the football, and he's obviously got the arm strength and everything that goes along with it. He is fun to watch, and it's going to be tough, I think, now to bet against Kansas City moving forward. And if their defense plays, like they did last night against the Bengals, that's going to be a tough team. Look, we see New England, and this has been the bugaboo about New England for a little while now, is their defense good enough to win a game or two in the playoffs?
Well, that was the conversation from this point on last year. Was the Patriots defense any good, and could they get there in the playoffs? And none of these groups, and Mike says this all the time, they're not finished products, and they can get better. And we saw it with the Patriots defense last year, and unfortunately, when Hayden went down, and then obviously Shazier, we saw the Steelers defense go the other direction. So, not finished products, but maybe the Chiefs defense was a little bit better last night. But the Bengals offense, the Bengals, banged up as they aren't quite the formidable team we thought maybe at the beginning of the season or a couple of games into the season. And the Patriots, yeah, you're right. Do they have enough talent on that side to win games? And that's obviously the Chiefs' question as well. They have enough talent because the Chiefs play the Rams in the Super Bowl, and they might break all the records for viewers and for scoring, because that game might be 50-48, and that's not necessarily knocking both defenses. It's just both offenses are so damn good.
Yeah, the Rams I watched that game yesterday as well too, and the Rams offense is definitely fun to watch. But
you like those unis? You like those unis?
I like their traditional. I like the traditional Rams uniforms the best. Like the ones the blue with the yellow and all. Yeah. So I like those the best. I didn't care for what they were wearing yesterday.
I'm always a big fan of color, so I like just about anything. So, but I was entertained. But yeah, so yeah, those are the best teams. Your MVP at this point is probably Mahomes. With Phillip Rivers, people don't pay a lot of attention probably, but he's in that conversation with Gurley behind him, Defensive Player of the Year. Khalil Mack, certainly Aaron Donald looks like the leader in that category. And
we saw with the Chargers what happens if they don't have a running game. They didn't have Melvin Gordon. They looked, and of course they were limited to the amount of plays I think they ran in the first half there. Now they maximized the use of those big plays yesterday, but to me it seemed like big play or nothing for them without Melvin Gordon.
I was kind of wonder about how you should think about time of possession. Because if you're the Chiefs and you're scoring on 50-yard touchdowns with the Chargers, as the case last week, the time of possession doesn't look so good. But you're scoring, their average per play in that game, I think, was 10.9 yards per game. I mean, you're right. They didn't have a running game. They didn't look great the second half, but they certainly put up the yards per play because they didn't run that many plays and they put up a bunch of yards.
Well, that's when when you look at that average net yards per passing attempt stat and all like that too, that really tells you, in my opinion, a lot about an offense. At this point of the season here, so it's going to be fun to watch. Look, we said in the show the other day, maybe there's a chance now that two teams come out of the AFC North, and if you were if you're forced to pick those two teams now, it's probably the Ravens and the Steelers. We're going to see what the Bengals are made of, and boy, you know what? Burfict might be a more hindrance to that team right now than he is helpful, because even before he left that game against the Chiefs last night with a hip injury, he was not great at all. I mean, he really wasn't great at all, and you can go back to that game against the Steelers. He wasn't great in that game against the Steelers either. And they're missing Nick Vigil, and they've had a few injuries on the defensive side of football. That thing can self-destruct real quick in Cincinnati, and I mentioned this as much a few weeks ago. Let's see how the Bengals play against the Steelers, and if they lose that game against the Steelers, meaning the one last weekend, a month from now, we might have a totally different, opinion of what and who Cincinnati is, and we're halfway there at this point. If they lose to the Buccaneers this next week, look out. I mean, they are really going to be in trouble there. So obviously, you have Ravens Steelers coming up, part 2. That's going to be a big game in the AFC North, and one would think that both teams would and should be able to win this week leading up to that game on top of it. The other thing I want to talk about with the Steelers coming out of the bye here that I think is going to be the most interesting thing to watch outside of the obvious Le'Veon Bell stuff, which we already touched on, is will they go ahead and start the clock on Adeniyi and Eli Rogers, or will they wait another week, or will they wait until they think they might have a more pressing need? Now, obviously, with both these players, with Ola and Eli Rogers, they should be healthy enough to resume practicing now. Now, the only question is how much practice time would you like them to have?
Well, again, remember, they're not going to get that short week. They're not really going to get any practice time in.
That's true as well. So
maybe a look right after that game, Carolina game.
Well, you don't, your health right now coming out of the bye, you would think you have DHB back, right? From that ankle. So there's absolutely, even if you had Eli Rogers ready a week, barring a new injury to your wide receiver, really, it would probably have to take two injuries at your wide receiver position right now for Eli Rogers to be able to get himself on the 53-man roster. So is there, and being that he's coming off probably is coming off the more significant injury of the two players, talking about him and Adeniyi, because Adeniyi was just a hamstring. There's probably no reason to rush Eli. So if I were betting, I would bet that no, you do not activate Eli this week. And as far as, or you don't not activate, you don't start the 21 day practice window on Eli. And you bring up a great point about the short week coming up for the Steelers here. But that is a couple of weeks away still. So you could begin practicing a guy like Adeniyi now, with the eye toward, after 21 days, which would put it after that game against the Panthers, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Then making the decision on him. I guess the question is, with a rookie undrafted free agent with the train, the proverbial train already leaving the station, all that goes along with it, and because you only have 3 outside linebackers at the position, but you do have the 2 on the practice squad, you could make an argument that it's worth starting the clock on Adeniyi this week. But, you do have the other 2 outside linebackers that should be up to speed already on your practice squad. So, you're not expecting Adeniyi, even if Adeniyi is ready to go, 2 weeks from, or 2 games, let's say he's ready to dress for the game against the Panthers. How much playing time is he even going to get?
He's not going to get any. He's got to take a roster spot from somebody, and he's going to maybe be a special teams guy. So, you wait as long as you can, and then, you decide what you want to do. I don't see any need. As you've said, look, I thought Ola was ahead of Keon Adams, and it looked that way because they put him on the 53, but they obviously knew when they made that decision they were going to IR him. So that might have been impacting how and why they made that decision. So, we're talking about marginal guys here. And if you don't – I think the most important thing is not Ola. The most important thing is retaining flexibility for the moment. And so I think I would continue to wait.
I would continue to wait as well, too. At least to see what's going to happen injury-wise, at a few of these positions. And right now, if you got in a pinch at outside linebacker, to me, it would make more sense to bring up a guy like, Keon Adams or Farrington Huguenin, off of the practice squad, if you had the immediate need for it. So just something to watch this week to see if they start the clock on either one of those two players. Okay, we talked about, we went through the entire offense.
I'll just throw in on Eli Rogers. As big a supporter as I've been of him, it would not surprise me if he never sees the field for the Steelers again.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, look, you could always bring him back, as a body, training camp next year. But I mean, there's going to reach a point here fairly soon where, if you don't bring him up off that PUP, then he has to stay on it all year. So, we're not there yet. We're several weeks away, and a lot can happen injury-wise. But to me, a lot would have to happen injury-wise in order to bring him up. I mean, because you got the guy, in Switzer there that can wear the multiple hats for you. And quite honestly, Switzer is, to me, in short yardage areas, it seems to be a better player than Eli Rogers. Now, Eli Rogers has run some decent routes for the Steelers in the past, but I think for what the two should be used for right now, and that's special teams and kind of short yardage, the 7-yard out kind of play. I think Switzer is the better option of the two right now. So yeah, I could see Eli Rogers staying on pup, the rest of the season. And he he didn't do himself any favors with the suspension to start the year and all like that. He hasn't proven to be a tremendous punt returner or explosive punt or kick returner just yet. So I'm with you there.
Okay, so let's start with the D-line, and I guess we'd have to say that Cam and Stephon have been disappointments in terms of their production to this point in the season.
I think statistically, yes, have both done good things. Yes, Cam Hayward more so than Stephon Tuitt, but not awful. It's just they're not sticking out, in games like maybe we thought they would in games. Tuitt, how many sacks has he missed this year? How many almost tackles behind the loss has he had? Those kind of things. It hasn't been awful. No, it's just probably not the kind of statistical production we thought.
Yeah, for sure. Javon Hargrave kind of, I think, a bit up and down. He's lost some little bit of playing time to Big Dan, but, we haven't seen a ton of either of those guys. And as the game moves, those guys just lose playing time. It's just the nature of the position that you're going to get, instead of 40% of the snaps or 33% of the snaps, trending toward 25% of the snaps. So, neither of those guys, Tyson Alualu, I thought was very impressed with how he played last year. Not unimpressive, just again, when you're only getting 10 snaps a game, tough to be impactful. And LT Walton kind of has had a few games and not in others. So, D-line, like we said, the two big names have probably not been as impactful as you'd like them to be.
And I think Hargrave has done some nice things the last couple of games, and then I think they're used them a little bit more in certain sub-package situations than they have in the past, spelling a guy like Tuitt or something like that. So I'm not of the three starters, I think Hargrave has kind of held his own in doing the things that they've asked him to do. Across the board, has this unit been great? Well, look, we got to make sure, we give Dan McCullers enough credit. You go back to that game against the Buccaneers, him being in the face of Fitzpatrick really was the main reason why that pick six happened. Tyson Alualu, I thought has played decent in his limited playing time. Obviously, with LT Walton being the odd man out now, there's not, he's barely played any snaps there. McCullers, even though he has played some, hasn't logged a lot of snaps there. But across the board with your other top four, talking about Hayward and Hargrave, Tuitt and Alualu, we could stand to see more. What this team needs to be able to do defensively and it's something we talk about all the time, and it's something we have envy when we see other teams be able to do it, is, man, you just got to start seeing this front be able to put up more pressure with 4 guys up front instead of having to instead of having to get creative to kind of get some of these pressures here. So, against the run, I don't think they've been awful up front. Against the pass, you would like to see them get a little bit more penetration, a little bit more pressure there. And now, coming off this bye week with a little bit of rest, it'll be interesting to see, especially how these starters do moving forward here. Not awful by any stretch of imagination, though.
Linebackers, the edge guys, I know TJ's gotten some accolades for a couple big games, but he's been a bit boom or bust in terms of his stat line. I think, the opening game against the Browns, a bunch of sacks. The game a couple weeks ago, a bunch of sacks. But, I don't think we've seen the level of consistency and the step forward that we'd like to see. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that he hasn't been a first round value. A lot of room to grow here as a player. I think he's been okay. And Bud probably has not been even as good. Again, I would always see the flashes of athleticism with Bud. It's never been very different than Jarvis Jones. It's kind of the opposite. Both lacking production. Jarvis lacking the athleticism. Bud just lacking the execution of getting it done.
Yeah, with Bud Dupree, man, you're just not seeing the counters there. You're not seeing the things that you would expect to see from an edge rusher that's been around as many seasons as he has been now. Watt, you would like to see him do a little bit better job, I think, with his hands. Once again, it comes back down to being able to get pressure with 4 at times, and it's been underwhelming still when it comes to that front and their ability to get pressure. Now, both these guys can obviously drop and do the things that you'd like to see them do in coverage here. I think both of these guys. Watt, I think, in the tackling department hasn't been. I think he's missed a few tackles that I wish he would have made, but a little bit better there. Who has been the more consistent player across the board of the two? Watt, obviously, or is it close?
I think it's close. I think it's close just because I don't think either's been, neither of them are going to get Pro Bowl votes. So, I'll give a slight edge to Watt, but, I just kind of give them both C pluses, B minuses, in that range, maybe TJ B minus and Watt or TJ B minus and Bud a C plus, Alvin a C plus.
I think Watt's the better run defender of the two, but across the board they've been kind of average, yeah. So I mean that's fair there. Inside, Bostic I think has been a little bit better player than many thought he would be for the amount of time that he's been playing, or time when he's not taken off the field in sub-package situation. I thought he would be good against the run, and he has been. Now, obviously, there's been, look, you don't want him running, with guys down the field. But against the run, I think he more than enough contribution there. I think his tackling has been on point there. I think in coverage, in the times that he's been asked to do some things, it's been okay. So I don't have any real complaints about him. Vince Williams, we've seen with Vince, in my opinion, some stretches of really good look. I mean, he made some plays against the Bengals. He really did. But there've been other times where we've seen his limitations on the field, sideline to sideline. I think him overrunning gaps and not being him trying to do too much at times, I think gets him in trouble. And they can win with both those guys inside in base situations. We have seen Vince do okay, especially in this last game. I don't know how many times you want to see it, though, him singled up on guys and have to run with guys down the field. I mean, he did good in certain situations in the game against the Bengals there. Adequate. I mean, I would call the inside play adequate there. Now, obviously, we haven't seen Matthew Thomas on the field, but about 4 or so snaps. L.J. Fort, it's going to be interesting to see because of how he played. Look, in this game against the Ravens coming up, would you be tempted to play L.J. Fort more in the game against the Ravens, the second trip around?
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. I might be tempted, but I thought Vince did some really good things this past week. A little bit boom or bust, as I mentioned after the Bengals game, but he made some big plays. He's healthy. The Steelers, paid him. There's no question if he's healthy, he's going to be on the field most of the time. I don't see them making changes. And as for Bostic, I think you're spot on. I think he's been quietly good, but quietly good isn't as good as loudly good. So. I think, the Bengals game, hardly called his name, hardly saw him unless you're, looking for him. But that doesn't mean he played poorly. I think he's shown that at whatever age he is, 29, 30, whatever he is, that he can still play in this league. And maybe he's a little younger than that, actually, 28, 27, but he can still play in this league. He's not Ryan Shazier, but at the same time, the problems with the defense don't center on John Bostic.
All right, the secondary. Obviously, Mike Hilton's been the best player in the secondary, and he even missed a game. What that was against the Ravens, right? That he missed a game. So it'll be interesting to have him back for the second meeting against the Ravens to see what kind of difference that can make with him. Sean Davis, probably the next. In my opinion, probably the next best player in the secondary. The big thing about Sean Davis is his angles. I think he has missed a tackle or two. That he probably should have made there. Next would probably be Joe Hayden on the list. The big thing with Joe Hayden, I think, is he probably should have a couple of interceptions at least right now. A couple of them have gone through his hands there. Moving on from there, Cody Sensabaugh, probably the next, either him or Cameron Sutton. Cameron Sutton just very inconsistent. I kind of thought we'd see a little bit, more arrow moving in the right direction with Cameron Sutton if asked to play as much as he's been asked to play at this point of the season here. And Cody is Cody, so I don't see us being disappointed with what thank God Cody's been in there to probably eat into some of the snaps of Artie Burns, and then of course down at the bottom of the list would be Artie Burns right now as far as what he's done, which has been at times just looks like totally lost.
Yeah, it's been a disaster for Artie, and as we talked about, it's critiquing the player, not the person. Artie seems like a good kid, and he's disappointed. And I really honestly feel like they should probably sit Artie maybe for the rest of the year. Just go with a rotation of Sensabaugh or Sutton, or just go with Sensabaugh, because Artie's, his technique has broken down, his confidence is shot. And generally, you don't see players recover from that, but we did see that happen with Ike Taylor famously. Years ago when Ike got benched by Mike Tomlin and then came back and played some of his best football still in his career after that. So, it just pedigree be damned at this point. He's been in the league 2.5 years. That's enough. It's what you put on tape and what you do week in and week out. It's just it's not good enough. It's not above the line.
The thing with defenses, especially with this defense this year, is we have to see. We talked about 4-man pressures and all like that, being able to see more out of that. Turnover-wise, we needed to see more splash from this defense. We can't expect the offense to keep having to have an average starting position of around 26 or 28 yard line. It seems like everybody's gets the best punting performance talking about the opposition when they play the Steelers for some reason. It just week in, week out, it seems like we talk about this for a number of seasons now. We just need the defense to start putting the offense in maybe in a few better positions. Now, the special teams units have been able to do that a little bit more over the years here with the block punts and some decent returns or whatnot. As far as interceptions go, can you name the players who have interceptions for the Steelers this year?
Oh, jeez. Let me think about it for 1 second. First of all, how many did they have? 3 or 4?
4 interceptions.
Edmonds had one against Tampa. I feel like Hayden has one, but I can't remember it. Does TJ have one?
Nope.
All right, I don't does Bud have one?
Bud obviously has one to pick six,
touchdown,
right?
The touchdown against Tampa, right? So that's the 2 in that game.
Edmonds has one. Bud Dupree has one. Mike Hilton has one.
Let's say I can't remember Hilton's, but I feel like it was a batted ball.
That was the third. Who was week 3? That was the Tampa game, right? Remember that one?
So also, that was on the right side of the batted ball. So all 3 of those. Who did Bud get his touchdown against?
Bud got it against Tampa Bay. That was the one where McCullers.
Was Edmonds against Tampa too? Were all 3 of those against Tampa? Or just Edmonds got that one overthrow down the middle of the field, and he had a great 30-yard return on it.
Edmonds was week 3 as well.
Yeah, so, okay, 3 against Tampa, and they got one other one. Which one was that?
That was the Cameron Sutton one in week 1.
That was a crap throw by Tyrod Taylor.
That was a crap throw by Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
So Boston and Boston was responsible for one of those, right? It went right off. Remember that one we said
off the helmet. That's the one Hilton caught.
Right, doinked right off the helmet. McCullers gets credit for the Bud Dupree one.
Yeah.
The Edmonds one, I'm trying to replay how the Edmonds one was the overthrow, right?
Yeah, that was well overthrown, and he caught it in center field and had a nice return.
And then the Cam Sutton was just a really bad throw by decision by Tyrod Taylor, threw it right to him. So we need to see why can't the Steelers get some of these interceptions that we see around the league every week where we go, oh man, wouldn't it be nice to get one of those, And it seems like it's just been an ongoing. Look, Mike Mitchell got him an interception yesterday for the Colts. Even we need to see more splash out of this defense, and especially in the secondary. We talked about in the show the other day about how the numbers of the adjusted net yards per passing attempt just don't match up to where they need to be right now. And the tape obviously matches that. Do you know who has the five forced fumbles? Can you play those back through your head? Probably.
No,
can.
Go ahead. I won't bore our listeners with me trying to remember plays again.
T.J. Watt, week 5. That was one of the Matt Ryan ones, right? Bud Dupree, week 1. Cameron Hayward, week 2. Artie Burns. Oh, well, you remember the Artie Burns one where that was when was the Artie Burns one?
That's right on the sideline there.
Week 3. That was against Tampa, and Cody Sensabaugh. That was week 4. Wasn't that one where he overran a play and then came back or one of those ones where maybe Artie missed a tackle? Anyway, those are your 5 forced fumbles right there. So definitely need to see more splash. We need to see some turnovers from this defense starting this week against Cleveland. This is a Cleveland team that or at least the last couple seasons, the Steelers are seen to match up well when it comes to the sack department there. So maybe they can load up another 5 or 6 sacks in this game this coming week.
Yeah. So do we get through all the safeties in terms of play.
Edmonds, look, the arrow pointing in the right direction for Edmonds. Last couple of games, like to continue to see some development from him. Obviously, Nat Burray out for the season. Here's to hope we don't have to see Jordan Dangerfield. We'll see what happens when Morgan Burnett. Probably not going to, as we talked on the show the other day, probably not going to see Morgan Burnett for, at least against the game against the Browns. We'll see if they can get him back for the Ravens. But at this point, you have to wonder, how much are we going to see Morgan Burnett even once he gets healthy? Moving forward. Dime situations, maybe that's it. Maybe he comes in and replaces a guy like Bostic in certain situations there on the field. So we've seen how much. The question is at this point, and it's a big question moving forward, and we're not even really at the half point way of the season. There is how much better can the Steelers defense get at this point? I mean, obviously they cannot afford to regress any. So, the big question of how this season is going to play out, especially in the next, 2 to 3, 4 key games here for the Steelers, is how much better can the defense get? And if they can't get any better, then there's no reason to think that this team can make a Super Bowl run here. The numbers right now tell you that they cannot do it. Now, we talked about the small subset of numbers and data and all like that. I'm not saying they can't, but we're going to have to, in 4 weeks from now on this podcast, we're going to have to be talking about, boy, can you believe the improvement that the Steelers defense has made?
Well, that would certainly be a welcome sight for Steeler fans, etc. Dave, did you win the Mega Millions or Powerball over the weekend?
No, and I wouldn't tell you if I did, but no, I did not. I know I did. I got after the man this week, though.
Well, that's good. Speaking of the man, mybookie.ag. That was. I have to say, I was not a participant this weekend, but if you want to get involved, mybookie.ag is the place to go. Now, did you go down and go to the houses, or did you go online at mybookie.ag?
I did all this in Vegas here this week.
Yeah, so I figured there was a chance for you to get out and see the people.
There was, and we even made it down to Fremont Street as well, too, and saw those yo-yos down there.
That's heading downtown. That's old downtown. That's there's things going on down there.
Yeah, they have this zip line that goes on. Have you been to you've been to Fremont before, right?
I have.
With the old lighted canopy and the lights and all up there and all. Well, now they have a giant zip line that runs from one end to the other. So, and I think it's about 4 or 5 wide. So you can get strapped up to this thing and fly almost like Superman the whole length of Fremont Street now. Wow.
Well, watching football is fun. That's fun too, flying on Fremont Street. But you want to get some actions on the game, get to mybookie.ag. You can play the parlays, the fantasy games, the over-unders. There's all sorts of things you can do. We are in prime time. The World Series starting on Tuesday. We got Penguins in Edmonton on Tuesday. We've got MMA, boxing. You've got all these things. And, of course, college and professional football and the NBA up in full force these days. It's one place we know you'll be happy all year. We recommend these guys because we trust them. They've been in business for years. They got great online reviews, mobile sites easy to use. If you're on the sidelines, now's the time to get in the game. They'll still match your deposit. Dollar for dollar. Use the promo code Terrible up to $1,000. Dollar for dollar on your first deposit at mybookie.ag.
What do you think about who is it? Greg Rosenthal. His latest article ranked Roethlisberger as the 15th best quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, I think Greg, he's done this article for this series for years, and he rates the players based on their performance this season. And, Ben's, I'd probably have him higher than 15. I'd have to go through and make my list. But, you might have Joe Flacco ahead of Ben at this point in the season. There are a lot of guys with a passer rating over 100. We've talked about how offense is so prevalent in the league. The guys like Jared Goff. I mean, you can pick guys who you wouldn't put ahead of Ben on the career scale, but there are a lot of guys who are playing some pretty good football. So, we're 6-7 games into the season, depending on if you've had your bye or not. I don't get too concerned about these things, but I don't think it's outrageously off base.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Ben has missed some throws. I mean, we got on him earlier in the year, right? With a few of his throws there. So, this is a guy though. Ben should be primed for a great second half, right? I mean, if you can start getting anything out of Washington moving forward. I mean, obviously the Wi-Fi connection with AB is back in gear now. Juju has, despite Juju showing some poor hands, at certain parts during the first 6 games of the season. Juju's made some great plays. We talked about both tight ends playing really well. James Conner out of the backfield. I mean, how many touchdowns is Ben going to crack 30 this year?
Where is he right now?
What does he have right now? Like 12, is it?
Yeah, I mean, 30 is the right. I think you can always pencil Ben in. Pencil him in 26 to 30. He hasn't played week 17 a couple of the past few years. He's missed a game here and there. So, that sounds right to me, 27 to 30.
Ben has 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions to date.
Yeah, that's it's on par.
Will he have a 4-touchdown game within the next 4 games?
That was the crazy stat, wasn't it, that they flashed up last night as Pat Mahomes had the 4th touchdown game of his career in 8. He's started 8 games. And quarterbacks among the list historically who have had only 4 touchdown games in their career on that list are not only Bob Greasy, but also Terry Bradshaw and Troy Aikman and, some of the legendary names of NFL quarterbacks. Mahomes, of course, the game's different. Everything's different. It's just an interesting talking point about that.
All right. Did you get the book from John Eisenberg? I was pleasantly surprised to. I
have a book waiting for me at the office, so I will. That's what it is. I will go over and get that and give that a read. Hopefully, before we get going next Wednesday with John.
Yeah, I got my book from Scott Brown in, and the one from John Eisenberg I haven't cracked open just yet. But the league, I got that in the mail last week as well too, so I'm ready to crack that one open. All right,
Great.
we'll have our Browns beat writer on Wednesday. Start previewing this upcoming matchup at home at Heinz Field against the Browns, and get back into the regular post, what we normally do during regular NFL season here. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow David Todd on Twitter at David M. Todd. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit that donate button up right navigational bar. Also, make sure you reach out on Twitter at what is it? It's at Robin Hood app, isn't it? David. Anyway, find Robin Hood on Twitter. Let him know that you heard about him on the Terrible Podcast. That'll be great feedback. Also, as David said, go to Steelers.robinhood.com for the offer that they have, and that'll be a good way to show support for them being a new sponsor to the show as well too. That's all I got, David. Until Wednesday.
Until Wednesday, as always. Thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Dave.